Tonight, the latest trade war U-turn.
One for Canada, one for Mexico. Yep.
Donald Trump backs down on his own deadline. How Canada is digging in.
The only way you can make that work is to keep the pressure.
And just how tense that call between the president and prime minister really got. A former Canadian Olympic snowboarder's slippery slope. What's landed him on the FBI's most wanted list?
Wedding went from being an elite athlete to running one of the most sophisticated drug trafficking networks in North America.
How Alberta is responding to revelations the Mounties are investigating a scandal into allegations of improper contracts. Plus, why a massive flash sale of Teslas in 3 provinces is raising suspicions.
Did that take place, or is that a backlog of paperwork going through? He can't share any comments.
And from the battlefield to a Canadian concert hall.
People doesn't understand lyrics of my song, but they cry.
The Ukrainian musician lending her voice to her country's cause.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening. More tariff whiplash tonight. Donald Trump backtracking yet again on day 3 of the continental trade fight and pausing tariffs on some Canadian goods until April 2nd. But the start-stop approach has thrown markets into a tailspin. Another day of triple-digit losses and deepening anxiety for North American businesses who don't know how to plan. Let's bring in CTV's senior political correspondent, Mike Couture, right now. And Mike, we'll get to that Canadian response in just a moment. But first, you've got some new reporting today on yesterday's call between the Prime Minister and U.S. President that was described as heated. What can you tell us?
Omar, according to a senior government source, that contentious call yesterday included the U.S. President using a profanity. However, in the last 2 minutes of the discussion, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick floated the idea of a tariff pause from their side. Details were worked out by Lutnick and Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc, leaving the Canadian team fairly confident they'd land where they did today.
One for Canada, one for Mexico.
Yes, sir.
With the stroke of a marker, Trump put a pause on most punishing tariffs. It's the second reprieve, but Canada continues to demand that all tariffs be taken off for good.
The only way you can make that work is to keep the pressure, because I think that is the kind of language that has been understood.
A part of that pressure includes Canada delaying that second round of planned tariffs worth $125 billion. Today, LeBlanc announced they would be paused a week, now matching the U.S. deadline of April 2nd. The first round on $30 billion worth of American goods remains in place, while provinces do their part. Ontario's premier announced he's taxing electricity exports to Michigan, Minnesota, and New York State.
This Monday, we're putting a tariff, 25% tariff on the electricity to the 1.5 million homes and businesses in those 3 states.
In BC, the premier is looking at unprecedented legislation to target commercial traffic from the U.S.
It will include such countermeasures as allowing the province to apply fees to commercial trucks that transit through British Columbia on their way to Alaska.
Trudeau's call with Trump was heated at times as the president listed the ways he believes Canada is treating the U.S. unfairly. Trump also claimed Trudeau is using the tariff problem to run again for prime minister.
A red maple leaf, I like that.
Asked about negotiating with Trump, Trudeau referenced the president's past experience in real estate.
That a win-lose is probably better for someone who is experienced in business deals than a win-win. But when it comes to countries, win-wins are actually the best outcomes.
Trudeau believes the only way to achieve a win-win is to remove all tariffs. But Trump has said levies on Canadian steel and aluminum remain in place for next week. Omar.
All right, Mike, thank you. The trade war has reignited a push to reduce Canada's dependency on the U.S. by looking at other international markets, but also breaking down barriers within the country. CTV's Jeremy Charon now on what goods could become easier to move. Jeremy.
Omar, this is a push to strengthen the domestic economy. We keep hearing about eliminating interprovincial trade barriers. This is the first step. Premiers across the board, along with the federal government, agreed to move ahead with new credentialing rules. That will make it easier for professionals in many industries to work in different provinces, which hasn't been the case so far. That will happen by June 1st, and same goes for moving goods across the country. They'll review exemptions to interprovincial trade. Products like alcohol are highly regulated and can be hard to move from province to province.
We are having now a pan-Canadian market for alcohol. Yeah. It's going to be much easier to buy alcohol made out of province in home jurisdictions. And that is a positive. It's what Canadians have been focusing on. And this is going to be in play within the next few months.
Premiers are now taking swift action to ensure Canada is prioritizing itself.
Now we're pressing ahead to ensure that labor credentials are recognized as well across the country, so that the teachers and the doctors and the nurses have their skills recognized equally in all provinces in the country. It'll open up more opportunities for workers as well as employers that are looking for workers to fill critical vacancies.
The federal government has indicated this could boost the country's economy by up to $200 billion, while ultimately planning for the future, ensuring Canada isn't so vulnerable to a trade war like this with the U.S. Omar?
All right, Jeremy, thank you. Trump's game of tariff chicken is impacting egg prices across the United States. CTV's Judy Trin is getting reaction from consumers in Washington.
This iconic Washington restaurant is a favorite with both Republicans and Democrats. Lately, customer traffic is slowing with the White House layoffs of government workers. But what has Ted's Bulletin really scrambling is the skyrocketing cost of eggs.
Eggs going from roughly $1.50 to $2 a carton, going up to $6, even sometimes $7 has made a big impact on our business.
To control the outbreak of avian flu, which began in 2022, more than 166 million birds have been culled in the United States. That has led to a massive shortage of egg-laying hens, turning this into a precious commodity.
It's so much more than it used to be. You used to think, just add an extra egg, and it's not that big of a deal. But it's on the top of our mind every day.
Ted's Bulletin uses 4 million eggs a year. For months, the restaurant chain has been absorbing the cost. But just 3 weeks ago, it has been forced to pass on the rising prices to customers. The overwhelming majority of dishes at Ted's have egg in them. Customers are now charged an extra 75 cents per breakfast item.
We were trying not to pass it on to the guests and hopefully it would pass, but once it reached a certain point, we were going to go in the red. We had to take a surcharge.
To increase supply and bring prices down, the Trump administration is considering importing eggs.
How many of you ordered something with eggs today?
Among the members of the Howard University basketball team is a shooting guard from Brampton, Ontario, who thinks bringing eggs in from Canada may not go over well.
I don't know, since the tariffs, it's a rocky relationship right now. I know Canada wants to help, and Canada wants to, be allies and continue this partnership for as long as we can, but I know America's making that difficult, so.
The problem could get worse before it gets better. The U.S. Department of Agriculture estimates that egg prices could go up by another 20% this year. Judy Trin, CTV News, Washington.
Justin Trudeau got emotional today during what could be his final press conference as Prime Minister.
I've made sure that every single day in this office, I put Canadians first, that I have people's backs. And that's why I'm here to tell you all that we got you.
Trudeau reflected on a decade in office before the Liberal Party chooses a new leader this weekend. He was announcing an extension of the National Child Care Plan to 2031. He says provinces and territories have signed on to the $11 a day program, but the plan has been plagued by long wait lists, lack of daycare spaces, and slow implementation. Canada's Defence Minister revealed the locations of 3 military hubs that will serve as the cornerstone of its Arctic security strategy.
These Northern Operational Support Hubs will serve critical military objectives in the region. They're going to increase the Canadian Armed Forces' presence and resourcefulness and responsiveness right across the Arctic and the North.
The federal government committed more than $2 billion over 20 years to establish the sites in Iqaluit, Inuvik, and Yellowknife. The announcement comes just a day after CSIS warned the Arctic is a vulnerable and strategically valuable destination for foreign adversaries. A former Canadian Olympic snowboarder accused of running a $1 billion international drug trafficking network and ordering multiple murders has been added to the FBI's 10 most wanted list. CTV's Andrew Johnson has the details on the multi-billion-dollar bounty. Andrew, what can you tell us?
Omar, American investigators say Ryan Wedding has escaped justice for far too long, and now they are offering a $10 million reward to secure his capture.
Wedding went from being an elite athlete to running one of the most sophisticated drug trafficking networks in North America.
That's why Wedding's been added to the FBI's 10 most wanted list, and they're upping the reward for information leading to his arrest.
This reward is being offered in coordination with the governments of Canada and Mexico. It's all hands, all nations on deck.
The RCMP said in a statement, Wedding poses one of the largest organized crime threats to Canada. Wedding once called Coquitlam, BC home and competed for our country as a snowboarder at the 2002 Olympic Games in Salt Lake City.
Afterwards, he went downhill in a different way. Wedding traded snow for another kind of powder, giving up world-class athletic pursuits for cocaine trafficking and involvement in murder.
Wedding, along with 15 other suspects, was allegedly involved in hundreds of kilograms of cocaine being shipped from Colombia through Mexico into the United States and Canada. He is also accused, along with fellow Canadian Andrew Clark, of ordering a combined 4 murders in Ontario in 2023 and 2024. Authorities believe Wedding is now living in Mexico and may be under the protection of a drug cartel. Clark is now in U.S. custody, and the FBI predicted today Ryan Wedding's days on the run may soon be numbered. Omar.
All right, Andrew, thank you. And to another investigation by Canadian authorities. Let's bring in CTV's Kathy Lee on the investigation the Mounties are taking on after allegations of political interference. Kathy.
Omar, Alberta RCMP confirmed today that its preliminary review of a complaint relating to Alberta Health Services has now moved into a formal investigation. Last month, the former CEO of Alberta Health Services, Athena Menzilopoulos, filed a $1.7 million lawsuit claiming the province's health authority rewarded friends of Danielle Smith's government and attacked critics. Menzilopoulos alleges she faced political pressure to sign inflated price contracts to private medical companies and that taxpayer funds paid for those contracts.
I think it's really important that people understand that this is in no way any suggestion that a crime has occurred, right? An investigation is to determine if a crime has been occurred. So I think we have to watch we don't press the political button on this one and say, see, I told you.
RCMP did not provide further details of the investigation. Alberta's Auditor General and a third party hired by the provincial government are also looking into the allegations. A spokesperson for the health minister says the government is unaware of who exactly is under investigation, but is willing to cooperate with RCMP if requested. Omar.
All right, Kathy, thank you. Canada's top public health official issued a warning today over the rising cases of measles across the country, including outbreaks this year in Ontario, Manitoba, New Brunswick, and Quebec. 227 cases have been reported so far this year, compared to just 146 in all of 2024. Officials say most of these cases are in unvaccinated or under-vaccinated kids. Public Health is urging Canadians to get vaccinated against measles, especially before traveling for spring break. Indigenous patients who suffered abuse at hospitals meant to treat them could soon be compensated by the federal government after a proposed settlement agreement was reached. One survivor recounted her experience today, and a warning this may be disturbing to some viewers.
I was repeatedly sexually abused by staff members. I witnessed other patients being sexually abused.
Ann Hardy is among those expected to receive up to $200,000 in compensation for the abuse faced at what were then called Indian hospitals. It is part of a proposal to settle a $1 billion class action lawsuit filed by more than 126,000 survivors. The compensation still needs court approval. A hearing is set for June.
Avec coup.
That's the voice of Pope Francis, heard for the first time since he was hospitalized for pneumonia nearly 3 weeks ago. The brief recorded audio message was played during prayers in St. Peter's Square. The pontiff thanked his well-wishers. Worshippers broke into applause on hearing the Pope's voice. The Vatican has said he remains stable. Coming up.
There's something highly unusual about this.
The staggering electric car sales sparking questions. Plus, the military training mission gone horribly wrong. Elon Musk's politics may be costing Tesla globally, but questions are swirling around a suspicious sudden surge in the car sales in 3 Canadian provinces. CTV's Adrian Gabriel has been crunching the numbers.
An electric sales weekend is sparking questions across the country.
It is highly irregular and highly unusual, and it needs explanation.
Over 72 hours in January, right after the federal government signaled that its electric vehicle incentive program was coming to a close, 4 Tesla locations in different parts of Canada submitted paperwork for the sale of 8,600 vehicles, amounting to $43 million in rebates.
It defies logic that these corporate stores of Tesla and Tesla shareholders and Elon Musk would be able to sell 8,600 vehicles in a single weekend. There's something highly unusual about this.
This lone Tesla location in the west end of Toronto reported selling more than 1,200 vehicles on January 11th, just 1 day before the program ended, totaling more than $4 million in rebates in a single day. We paid them a visit to try and get some clarity on this staggering number of sales.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. My name's Adrian Gabriel. I'm a journalist with CTV News.
Okay.
There was a large increase in the number of sales processed through the EV rebate program. Just trying to get an understanding of perhaps what maybe some of the reasons were behind that. Did that take place, or is that a backlog of paperwork going through? You can't share any comments? Is there any manager you think that might be able to?
I am the manager.
Across the street, we found a closed-down strip mall with a fenced-in parking lot packed with Teslas. Our multiple emails to the electric vehicle giant have been met with silence.
That's why we need an investigation.
Canada's EV subsidy has been wildly popular, with more than 500,000 vehicles purchased through the program that was paused on January 12th. The locations in question are located in Quebec City, Vancouver, and 2 in Toronto. The Minister of Transportation's office tells us they believe that Tesla followed the conditions of the program. We asked if the minister would be opening an investigation. We're still waiting to hear. Omar.
Adrian, thank you. Stunning video out of South Korea today after South Korean fighter jets accidentally dropped explosives on a civilian neighborhood. It happened during a training exercise in a town near Seoul. Air Force jets dropped 8 500-pound bombs, causing severe damage to homes and a church. Military officials say 2 people were seriously injured and at least 15 others were hurt in the blast. New video emerged today of an explosion in central Ukraine. Officials say a Russian missile struck a hotel, killing 4 people and leaving more than 30 injured. It happened in the hometown of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who says he will travel to Saudi Arabia next week to meet with U.S. officials for peace talks. Still ahead, days before the Liberals choose their new leader, who's winning the social media game? The federal Liberals are just 3 days away from choosing a new leader and the next prime minister. Just as important as the door knocking and handshakes is the digital game. And here to break it down for us is our very first Satchidina CTV News fellow, AJ Cordero. AJ, it's really great having you here. So you analyzed the social media posts of these candidates going all the way back to when Justin Trudeau announced he will resign back in January. Can we say who's winning the social media game?
Certainly, Omar, and that is Mark Carney. Mark Carney has been the clear digital frontrunner when it came to our analysis across Facebook, Instagram, and X. In second place was Chrystia Freeland, who had been very, very effective at making her message known on Instagram. And of course, we had Karina Gould and Frank Bayless, both of them who concentrated a lot of their efforts on X.
It's been really interesting to see these politicians react to what's been happening south of the border, to U.S. tariffs, to these threats of annexation coming from Donald Trump. What have you noticed around that?
Well, certainly each candidate has taken on a particular persona to sort of brand their identities when it comes to their politics on social media. For example, Mark Carney has taken on the role of financial expert, where he talks about obviously his experience as Bank of Canada and Bank of England governor. We also know that Chrystia Freeland has taken on the fighter role, speaking to her experience of being the best person to combat Donald Trump. We then have also Karina Gould, who is positioning herself as the economic protector, speaking to labor interests. And of course, Frank Bayless, being a business person himself, feels that he can be the best person to tap into the corporate American psyche.
AJ, it's fascinating analysis, and congratulations again on your fellowship. Thank you so much. And for a full breakdown of the Liberal contenders' social media trends, you can find AJ's research at ctvnews.ca. That is also where you will find special coverage of the Liberal leadership decision on Sunday and on CTV News Channel, starting at 4 p.m. Eastern. Still ahead, a musician's mission of sharing devastating war stories through song. A musician from Ukraine is taking a break from performing for soldiers to boost morale from Canada. CTV's Sarah Plowman on the mission and the message.
Pain can be hard to express. It belongs to no country, no language. Like music, pain is universal.
People doesn't understand lyrics of my song, but they cry. Right now it's super difficult, and sometimes even I cry in the stage.
An ocean away from Ukraine's front lines, Marina Krut is on her own mission to share Ukraine's culture, like this instrument she plays, the bandura.
Those songs about fight, you know, that you need to protect your country, you need to protect your life, and if you love something, you need to protect this love.
A former finalist at Eurovision, Krut plays in concert halls at festivals for Ukrainian soldiers on the front lines.
They all give me a lot of inspiration because they're super strong.
For 3 long years, she's watched her country be attacked. Friends have fought, many killed. She sees each performance as a responsibility, especially now.
You know, we just pray for peace, and we want peace so much, but not peace like this. Too much people died right now for peace like that.
Not a Zelensky supporter before the war, Krut stands with him now.
Don't ask Ukraine to stop defending. Ask Russia, stop attack.
Her voice, her own weapon, one she hopes will help inspire, or at best, help others truly understand. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
And that's a snapshot of this Thursday. Heather is here tomorrow. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching, and good night.